Hello and welcome to another great episode of the Optimize Show. I am David Bomano, your host. Thanks for watching and or listening. Every Wednesday morning, we have a new show and just trying to bring you great content so that we can get best practices from incredible leaders so that we can do the whole high tide raises all the ships for our community and beyond. So today I have on the show a great friend and a great business leader. We're very lucky to have him in our community, Ian Mortimer from the Golisano Institute for Business Entrepreneurship. Ian. Welcome to the Optimize Show.
Thank you so much.
Talk about optimizing. You have like the optimized touch. Everything you touch is boom, you know? So thanks for being on the show. You are president of the Golisano Institute for Business and Entrepreneurship, which we're going to dig deep in. And I'm really excited about it. Some great things going on. But first, I just want to talk a little bit about your journey. And I had the great fortune to meet you.
Yes.
When I had my magazine called Next Step, colleges would advertise, and someone said, "Oh, you should call on Champlain College." I forgot why, but I called, and they gave me your name. We're talking, and you're like, "Oh, by the way, do you know that I'm from Canandaigua area?" And I'm like, "Oh my God," you know. So you had me come up in I think it was early October.
Yeah.
I had never been there before.
And you're running some printing out of there, I think, as well.
Yeah,
right?
we were also looking at printing our magazine out there at the time as well, Lane Press. And never been there. And I remember just pulling out of my driveway and going in my phone for the directions, and I put in Champlain College. And it took me through the Adirondacks, and it was in the fall, and it was a beautiful sunny day, one of the most beautiful fall foliage drives I've ever had. I get to this body of water, it leads me right to a ferry. I'm like, a ferry? I put my car on the ferry, where I got to go over Lake Champlain, and then I'm in Burlington, where Champlain College is. And I had never been to Burlington. I remember calling home thinking like, I could live here.
Yeah,
this is so beautiful. Especially it was October, beautiful sunny day with all the foliage.
Yep.
I remember you called it a Chamber of Commerce day. And I'm like, I agree, you know. So got to meet you there. And then shortly after that, Nazareth College, now university, smartly recruited you.
We had a surprise child, and we wanted to get back home.
Oh,
so that was the
number
impetus.
3?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So we had a gap in our. I have a grad school son, a undergraduate school son, and a sixth grader. Then when Terrence arrived, we wanted to get back to Western New York and something a little closer and more familiar. So that was why. Yeah.
Well, and we're in similar boats. You know, the difference between my middle child and my youngest is 6+ years. So kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
But Nazareth recruited you to come back to be VP of Enrollment Management.
Yep.
And you did some great things there. I know Nazareth was in a little bit of a tailspin, and I think you kind of stopped the bleeding and set some great programs up.
Great people there.
Yeah, great people. You're very modest, but I think you had a lot to do with it. So.
Thank you, yeah.
And then since you're a hot commodity, RIT recruited you?
It was it was a search for each other.
Yeah.
So Jim Miller was the enrollment VP there for 30+ years, and built obviously a huge infrastructure and brand, with all of his colleagues, and he was retiring. And I went and got my MBA at RIT, and so I had some familiarity with it. Yeah. And I was at the time I had a very strong belief in co-op education and paid work experience as a part of the value prop for higher ed.
Yeah.
And as you know, RIT is very good at that.
And
so that was kind of the moth to the flame in terms of the why.
Yeah, and my son's at RIT right now doing a co-op this summer.
Yep.
So that's one of the best value props of RIT.
Absolutely right.
You actually get like real jobs while you're going to school, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you were brought over there to be, again, VP of Enrollment Management and Provost, right?
Yep. Associate Provost.
Associate Provost.
Okay.
But then you probably thought maybe I'll retire from here, or we'll see where this goes, right? And then something brand new came with Tom Golisano, who, if you haven't heard of Tom Golisano and you're in Rochester, New York, you're living in a cave, right? Paychex founder, incredible philanthropist and investor in other businesses here in the Rochester area, had an idea to disrupt higher ed, and he founded the Golisano Institute, and that's where you come in. So first, I want to talk about that. But how did you come in? How did Tom hear about Ian Mortimer?
Yeah, so Tom is smart enough to do a lot of research and understand what he's getting into before he makes any big decisions, and so he was doing a tour in talking with all the presidents and leadership at the University of Rochester, RIT, Fisher, Nazareth, Alfred, I think as well, just to learn the landscape in terms of what is the current state of education, but specifically business education. And I was fortunate enough to be in the room when he visited RIT because of my background and enrollment, and we were also growing this new thing called RIT Certified, which is a non-credit arm of RIT. And the gentleman at the time, someone I respect deeply, Jim Waters, kind of brought us all together to have that conversation. And as Tom started talking about he asked more questions than he had more kind of statements. And to me, it was, he asked all the right questions in terms of, the current state of education, and asked questions around, time and money and output and effectiveness. And RIT, does all those things incredibly well. But I also reach back to, what I know about the higher education marketplace. And, higher education does an incredible service to a lot of people. But it also, from my perspective, knowing too much about the data, sometimes can create some bumps and bruises to people because it's the only option if you want to be trained in a professional, kind of white collar type of a job. And so the more Tom talked and the more I listened, I thought about, kind of the landscape and what's coming down the future. I just got very interested around an alternative form of business education. And I think my interest and my curiosity about what he was doing was what caused him to be a little bit interested in me. And then the more we talked and the more that we kind of got to know each other, it just seemed to kind of fit.
Right. And he said, why don't you come around this place for me?
Well, there was a lot of, there wasn't that easy. Tom is very, what's the right language? He wants to know that you're in it for the right reasons.
Right.
This is not about self-promotion, and it's not about trying to disrupt anything. I mean, it's about doing the right thing at the right time with the right amount of support.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to make sure that I was, I had that mindset.
Yeah.
And so we danced for about 4 or 5 months to make sure that it was a good fit for him and for me. And then we just kind of took off from there.
I think he's got the special talent as an entrepreneur to also be very, very thoughtful and meticulous about every step.
That's right.
Where a lot of entrepreneurs were like, ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
He's definitely like ready, aim, then we'll fire,
It's a series of tests.
Yeah.
And you have to, not as a person, but as a business, I think in his mind, he's kind of cycling through, maybe 20, 30 questions that if they all are yes, then it's a go. But if there's noise in any of them, then he pumps the brakes and he, asks more questions and becomes more curious.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So let's talk about the Golisano Institute for Business and Entrepreneurship. What is it? Why is it different? And how's it going?
It's going really well. So it's essentially a business education that is shorter in length. We believe will have better outcomes based on the active learning and the highly experiential part of the program. And then also it's almost completely subsidized by Tom. So 2 years, 24 months, 3 internships, a lot of entrepreneurship work. And there's this constant, urgent kind of mechanism to bring in the outside world into the campus center 4 walls. So you've been involved in speaking from experience and seeing that program. We're bringing in a revenue accelerator partner to work with local entrepreneurs to build out their revenue bases. We're incorporating an AI lab as a part of the infrastructure. So it's this kind of paranoid urgency to make sure that everything we do is connected to the opportunities of the future. And we don't have the barriers that a lot of big educational entities have because we're new and we have a lot of great financial support, but we have to be very responsible with that financial support to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So I
just feel like the way the model has started from the start is that the DNA is it's able to buck and jive.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like I'm thinking just now like an analogy of how Southwest Airlines disrupted the airline industry. They got rid of all the stuff that really passengers didn't need, and they just provided a great trip to where you wanted to go.
Yeah.
Right? If you wanted a great meal and you wanted a filet mignon in first class, you're not going to choose Southwest.
That's right.
But if you wanted to get there and have fun and have the flight be on time and get great service, you're going to go Southwest, right? And it's I feel like Golisano Institute it's 2 years, it's full time.
Yep.
Right.
Very full time.
Yeah, and if you're not going to get a course in humanities and Shakespeare. If you want that, go someplace else. You're gonna get it's business, it's entrepreneurship, very super hyper focused. And by the way, the Institute, Tom Golisano, has not skimped on the leadership and the professors, right? I mean, you have people. I mean, first of all, your pedigree is phenomenal.
Oh, thanks.
But you have someone from Harvard. You have people from U of R. You have a provost from Champlain College, right? These are people that had really good, quote unquote, cushy tenured jobs, and they said, you know what? I'm going to come over here. I'm going to try something new. It's a big risk.
Yeah.
But it's like it's very, very well endowed with incredible talent. With the leadership and the academics.
Yeah, I think we've done a lot of things well in the beginning, but to your exact point is that we've been very, very deliberate on the behaviors and attitudes of the individuals that we've hired.
Yeah.
And so just kind of testimony to that is that every individual gets hired, whether it's the individual who is, doing administrative tasks or the individual who may be, leading a really important part of it. They have to meet with multiple layers of the organization.
Yeah.
And then there's a rubber stamp sign-off where the individual has to meet with the leadership team. And it's not so much to assess their functional expertise, but it's to assess and make sure that they have kind of the right mindset and understand what they're getting into, and have a passion for student-centered outcomes.
Yeah.
If you're into research, we're not the right place for you. If you're into, maybe not being in our campus center, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, we're not the right place for you.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a part of something that is very special in terms of the focus and the impetus about driving really good economic outcomes for students, then we're a really good fit. But you have to kind of demonstrate it through evidence.
Well, and it's your tagline could be, "We're not for everyone."
Yeah,
You're for the student, and the student could be 18, the student could be 54.
That's right.
Right? I mean, I know you have someone who sold their business and just wants to come back to continue their education, which is so incredible. But like I said, 2 years full time, and the investment. I'm not going to call it the price. We'll say the investment, the tuition. The base is what, $8,500 right now?
$8,900.
$8,900.
But that includes new laptop, all books. Everything is included.
Yeah.
There's no additional fees.
And then there's scholarships and other ways to bring that down if possible, which is amazing. And I think another, what I've learned about the school just being there a lot is how you're partnering with the community.
Yeah.
Right. John Mardeci I believe he's in charge with just bringing corporations into the school to partner, whether it's internships, work experience, shadowing, bringing in speakers. Every Wednesday morning you have a speaker, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking from experience is kind of our hallmark day every week. And so Wednesday from 9 to 10:30, we have individuals. A lot of them are entrepreneurs and people who have built businesses, but we want students to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Not every business has had this kind of linear trajectory of going up, and we encourage these speakers to share the tough times and to share the heartache and to share that I'm successful today, but these are the critical paths that it took to get there. I mean, Sharon Napier of Partners in Napier was in Wednesday 2 days ago, and her story was it was very human. I mean, she talked about obviously marketing and all the great work that her agency does. But she also talked about, hard is hard.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you got to be okay with being able to pound through the tough times. And people need to understand that if they even want to contemplate being an entrepreneur. As you know more than anyone. I mean, you've had a lot of businesses. And
I've had some ups and downs for sure.
Great successes.
And some great failures. Everywhere in between.
And that's cool, right?
Absolutely. I semi-joke that sometimes being an entrepreneur, you feel like you could do no wrong. You're on top of the world, king of the world, queen of the world. And then there's sometimes you're like, oh my God, I'm such a failure. Where's the nearest cliff? And the joke is, we often have both those feelings in the same day.
Yeah.
10 a.m., king of the world, 2 p.m. Oh my God, why am I doing this, right? So,
but I do have to give some credit to you. I mean, you do a great job of bringing in people, obviously, to share their stories. But your magazine at the time was the primary marketing channel for most colleges and universities, particularly in the Northeast and the Midwest.
Yeah.
It was a great success. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
you know,
Thank you.
I reflect fondly on that time in
Yeah.
education, and you were a big part of that. So,
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I enjoyed it, and yeah, I rode a great wave, and then that whole digital revolution killed print. And to your point, there was highs and there was lows, right?
Well,
But true entrepreneurs, we bounce back.
Yeah.
We find ways. We you know, try to find out what our quote unquote, you know, gift superpower is, and how can we monetize that into value for others.
Yeah.
So, but I know that the partnerships are going really well. Wegmans, of course, paychecks, et cetera, and students can get some work experience at these places while they're going to school, right? And the speakers that you bring in. I was talking to one of your admissions people, and she was like, and she tells this to students, she was like, I wish this was around for me. She went to a traditional, you know, 4-year, very good university. She goes, I didn't meet one CEO in all my 4 years. And your students are meeting a new CEO like every week, right?
And just to add to that, so we want to make the place feel like work as well. Like, so all of our students have to dress business cash every day, and then business formal on Wednesdays.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, part of what we're hearing from employers is that, yeah, we love that you're teaching accounting and finance and marketing, you're doing it in a very active environment, but the thing that is distinctive is that they know how to show up to work.
Yeah.
And so if someone's late to the Institute, a student is late, you know, sometimes we'll turn around.
Yeah.
You know, try again tomorrow.
Right.
And if they're dressed in a way that isn't, you know, respectful of their peers and the community that we're trying to build,
Yeah.
you know, they know, you know, kind of what the line is.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is that our students, I mean, it took a while to kind of get there, but now it's self-regulated. You know, now they're holding each other accountable in terms of what it means to show up professionally.
Yeah.
And the onus isn't on us. It's really happening as a result of the culture. And the employers are picking up on this.
That's amazing.
It's the behavior and the attitudes part of the development.
Yeah. It just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It
man.
is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
So no pajamas and slippers.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, and every time I'm there, and I've been there for many reasons. I was brought in by Gail Yeagle to be an instructor for the Young Entrepreneurs Academy program, which was phenomenal.
Yes,
and
it was.
You know, kudos to you guys for partnering with Gail to bring that in, and you're bringing in high school students for this program so they can learn about the Institute as well. You know, I've done some speaking there, et cetera. Every time I'm there, the energy from just your team and even the students it's just naturally phenomenal.
Yeah, thank you.
It's naturally like very positive and contagious.
Thank you.
I walk down the hall, even the students are like, hey, how are you? You know, like, and you don't make them say hello to me, right? It just happens. You know, I met some of the leadership and professors. I walk by their offices and, Dave, how are you? Come in and speak to them, you know. So it feels like it's becoming just an incredible home of incredible energy, I should say.
Thank you. That's exactly the objective.
Yeah. So, well, kudos to you, sir.
Well, thanks,
for creating that leadership style.
You know, and I think, you know, part of the opportunity is that, you know, coming out of COVID, there was a lot of questions on what education culture is.
Yeah.
You know, most high school students nationally were online for the majority of their full year, their COVID year.
Yeah.
And you know, it's to no one's fault, but you learn behaviors that maybe in the long term aren't in your best interests.
Yeah.
And so you come to our place and you kind of get exposed to, you know, what a trajectory looks like in terms of how do I show up and be accountable to the work that's in front of me and to the people that are around me. And that has a lot of economic value.
Yeah, that's incredible. So Tom Golisano is known for turning ideas into very profitable ventures.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously paychecks, and then he's been involved in starting and investing in many other businesses, and it seems like they all do well, right? With this adventure, his mission is not to get rich off it. It's more of a legacy play, right?
That's correct.
So what made him think about doing that, do you think?
Well, I'll tell a story and then I can backfill. I think it's evidence to the why, and then you know, hopefully add some more details. So every month, Tom and Monica come in and have dinner with our students, and we sit in small groups. And Tom asks questions about how things are going. You know, what are the things that are, you know, profoundly great, and what are the things that you would like us to think about changing? So there's a continuous improvement loop that Tom hears directly, that then he can then, you know, kind of help us understand where his biggest priorities may be, not only current state, but also future state. And so last night, we had one of our dinners, and one of the things that he noticed that he shared with me, which gets back to this idea of showing up and being present, is that all of our students were dressed perfectly for a professional meeting. They weren't coached, they weren't asked to, they just did it. And that was not the case when we first started it in October. I mean, students are still trying to figure it out. It's not their fault, but it takes a little bit of time and energy to understand what the expectations are. And at the end of dinner, we had a really good conversation. They shared some things that they would like to see some improvement on, and they also shared a lot of the positives. And Tom said, something I just want to let you all know. I'm very proud of each of you and the development that I see in each of you. And it was this moment in terms of why he's doing this. His goal is to create and put out into our economy 200 professionally prepared, entrepreneurially minded graduates. And the ends are a little small right now, and we're growing over time. But it's a legacy of impact in the community. The school is just the mechanism to make it happen. And to your point, it's a losing venture, from a P&L perspective. But he thinks that this will be the thing that kind of sparks new ideas, new growth, new mindsets in our community as it relates to business.
Well, it's a way for him to give back, for years and years and years, right?
Exactly.
I interviewed him years ago for another show I had. And I referred to him as like kind of a modern day George Eastman.
Yeah, well said.
And George Eastman, still lives on because of a lot of the giving attitudes that he had when he was alive. So we still know him today.
That's right.
Yeah. And so 50, 100 years from now, the Golisano Institute, ideally is still going to be producing 200, 300, 400 students a year, thanks to Tom Golisano, because of his nature of continual giving. And my hope, and maybe this is Tom's hope as well, is that other very successful business leaders in different cities will do something similar. Set up a model, right?
Exactly right. We're already getting sniffs actually from individuals from other locales. And my sense is that they're seeking new ways to give. They'll still give to hospitals. They'll still give to traditional ed. But I think that Tom's impetus and risk in terms of doing it himself, I think a lot of billionaires, a lot of really wealthy people are thinking about, I can do this myself. That's kind of a click, I think, for many of them.
Why there should be the Buffett Institute of Business and Entrepreneurship, right? Et cetera, Gates, everything, right? So last but not least, you guys continue to innovate and do some really great things. 2 new things that are coming is the Growth X Accelerator, and you're also opening up an AI Innovation Lab. Tell me about those.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've always felt like if we're going to claim entrepreneurship, we have to have that happening inside our 4 walls, in addition to all of the amazing work that Star and our faculty and our students are doing from a kind of a grounding perspective. And so we interviewed a lot of national incubators and accelerators. And we came across an organization in Nashville, Tennessee called Growth X. And their premise is that there's a lot of kind of artificial stimulus in the entrepreneurial world, in that we give 25 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, sometimes $1 million, to organizations that are just really good at pitching. And when you look up the hood and you really kind of look at the relationship between their revenues and their infrastructure, they're misaligned. And it's a Silicon Valley play that has come out of. And their premise is that doesn't help rising cities like Rochester, Nashville, St. Louis, because there's capital's too meaningful. So Tom is a firm believer in the importance of sales and revenue, as you know. And so they have a model called the Revenue Accelerator, which is a 16-week program that startups and early stage companies go through to prove market fit. You can claim that you have market fit, but you don't have market fit until you're solving someone's problem and they're paying you money to do it. And so that's the whole premise of the Growth X Accelerator. And 12 to 15 Western New York companies are going to go through the program in our campus center
Yeah.
And our students, it's going to be like kind of surgery theater where they can look over the ledge
I like
and
that.
kind of see
Yeah.
exactly what's going on
Yeah.
within these companies. Where's the pain? Where's the opportunity?
What an experience.
It'll be great.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. And then the second
That's
one.
Growth X Accelerator.
Yeah, the Revenue Accelerator sponsored by GrowthX,
Yeah.
but a very specific Western New York program.
Awesome.
In our campus center.
Yeah.
And then the AI, the Innovation Hub, is all about the reality that the best opportunities, many of the best opportunities, are going to come from artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And so you can't claim entrepreneurship unless you really have an understanding of what
Right.
those opportunities are.
Yeah.
And so that's why we've invested in a hub with community partners to build education programs, incubation for students to go in and tinker and play, and dream and build some businesses.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think you either have to learn how to run AI for yourself and for your businesses, or it's going to run you, right?
Totally right. And the premise, the language that we use is that your job is probably not going to. AI is not going to replace your job, but someone using AI will probably replace your job.
Oh, that's good.
Which is exactly what you just said, just different language.
Right, no, that's better. You said it
No.
Well, I just want to end with this little story of Tom Golisano. I want to give him some credit because of his giving nature, and I promise I'd tell you this story. So it's really special for me to be involved with what I've been doing with the Institute, with the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, and speaking.
And you've coached some of our employees, so thank you for
Some
that.
of your admission staff there, and then Irv had me be the a judge for your business plan competition, which was amazing. Your business pitch competition. But so it's very special for me because going back many years ago when I was 25, and I had just started Next Step magazine, which we were talking about. So by day I was a magazine publisher, CEO of a media company, right? By night I was serving meatballs and pasta at Mario's, right? Mario's Via Brizzi at the time. Yeah. Now, knocked down Whole Foods, but at the time it was like the best restaurant in town. So I was supporting myself at night by being a waiter. Just happened to wait on Tom Golisano's executive assistant. And of course I get all excited. I tell her what I'm doing. And I said, do you think Tom would meet with me? I'm brand new, I love to pick his brain. And she gave me kind of a cute little puppy look, like, well, I don't think so, I said, well, here's my brand new business card. Will you at least ask him? And she goes, I'll ask him. Woman's name was Jane. And so Jane said, I'll take your business card and I'll ask him. I get a call like a week later, and Jane says, believe it or not, Mr. Golisano will meet with you.
That's great.
She goes, meet him at the North Side Inn, for lunch this day. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to meet Tom Golisano. And so I bring my notepad, paper and pen, and he spends about 2 hours with me, like going over my ideas, my business plan. And this is when he's still CEO of Paychex. The stock is splitting. He's a busy man, right? And he spends 2 hours with this young punk kid who's starting this little tiny magazine, right? And his advice was great. I altered the business model a lot because of him, and we remained friends since then, right? And but I'll never forget that. As busy as Tom was, he still had time for this little young business owner, And as I, through my years, whenever a young person wants to meet with me, absolutely. And many years later, I had Tom in that other show, and I said, I thanked him for that. And he said, well, I probably viewed you as a future customer. So I was probably looking at it as a sales call.
Tom, I know Tom would say something like that. Because he's very humble about, his genuine interest in people like you. I mean, that was just, my opinion.
That's
very just true. A reaction.
He just wanted to help me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, great. And I never forgot that. And not only did he help me out with my business, but he set a great example for me as well. That's why I always share that story, so that he could continue to set that example for others as well. You're never too busy to help a young person.
Absolutely. And the Institute is kind of that on steroids in many ways.
Excellent. So how do you envision the Golisano Institute in 3-5 years? Where do you see it going?
So we don't want to dilute what we're doing now, particularly because we're seeing early returns in terms of our students' positive feedback from employers. So it's going to be very slow, kind of organic, intentional growth. It's a very high-touch place. 2 faculty in every classroom, a lot of mentorship. As you said, there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
And so as we grow, we don't want to dilute that. We want to make sure that we are superhuman-centered every step of the way.
Yeah.
So we have a goal of being 400 students within the next 2.5 years.
Wow.
I have no reason to believe that won't happen. The question comes back to something you said, is that how easy is it to transpose and transplant culture and people in new locations? And that will be a challenge, but I think it's something we're going to have to think about.
Yeah.
If we were going to do this in Orlando or St. Louis or even Buffalo as an example, how do we take our people DNA and recreate that so that the soul of the Institute continues no matter where we go or how we do it?
Yeah.
So that's a big question. But in the short run, we just want to get as good as we can in terms of getting our students ready. And a year from now will be our first graduating class, and we'll look around, and if every one of them has a great path, then it was a great beta run, and let's keep going.
Yeah, that's excellent.
We'll see.
Well, as you know, higher ed is really being disrupted right now. It's changing a lot, right? The world is changing, number of students, et cetera, and so it's great to see the Golisano Institute kind of leading a new way in making people think of a different alternative.
And just to be clear, we have no intention about being harmful to the current model.
Yeah.
Most of our students, all except one, had no intention of going back to school or going to school before they arrived to us.
Yeah.
So, I think what we're doing is actually filling a hole that is not being met.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I'm sorry, one more point, is that we're working on a project now to be actually a service provider to, kind of prestigious, if you will, just from kind of brand reputation, liberal arts schools that don't have business curriculum or any entrepreneurship activity.
Yeah.
And so we're working on a study away semester program where if you are a third year, second year student at Colby College, as an example, you would come to the Institute for that semester, meet entrepreneurs, engage in the accelerator, get involved in AI, and then that becomes something you take back and you finish up your education at those schools.
So you're partnering with colleges,
Exactly.
and I think even high schools to some extent too, right?
We're doing high school work as well right now, exactly.
Yeah. And I know they had a lot of, a fair amount so far of traditional four-year universities and colleges are partnering with you if the students want to continue on their education,
Absolutely.
right?
Current state is Syracuse. We have a degree completion program with Roberts Wesleyan, who's been a great partner. We have a housing program with them.
Oh, great.
Alfred State, their whole admissions enrollment and some of their faculty came up yesterday, which is Tom's alma mater, which I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
And then Damon University in Buffalo sent a curricular crosswalk. Niagara University is working on it. So there's a lot of, we want our partners to have the same mindset.
Yep.
If this is just like words on paper, there's a lot of other places you can do that.
Right.
But if you believe in what we're doing and you believe in the product and it can add value to your organization, then that's what we want.
Yeah, and those are the smart universities, in my opinion, where they're looking at what you're doing instead of being threatened by it. They're saying how can we create a symbiotic relationship?
Yeah, and offer some creative intersections. I mean, it doesn't have to be 2 + 2. It can be a lot of different things, as long as everyone's all boats rise, to use your metaphor.
Yeah, excellent. Ian, so exciting. This is one of the reasons that I just love Rochester. And it's just the entrepreneurial energy in the city. I like to say we punch harder than our weight, right?
Yeah, for
There's
sure.
so much going on here.
And that's what Growth X picked up on.
Yeah.
That's why they were interested in us, is that there's a lot of raw, energetic, smart talent here.
Something in that Genesee River.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. People want to get in touch with you in the school. What's the best way?
I'm Mortimer at golisanoinstitute.org, or visit our website, golisanoinstitute.org. All of our contact information is on the web.
Excellent.
Or if you just want to stop in, we're at 150 Sawgrass Drive in Brighton. Just knock on the door, we'll open it up and we'll show you around.
Very good. Awesome. Well, thanks again. I wish you continued massive success, Ian. Appreciate it.
And thanks for all your help.
Of course. Thank you. Thank everybody for watching. Wow, what a great episode of the Optimize Show. Appreciate you. Do me a favor, do us a favor. Share this, like it, subscribe, the whole works. We got to get the word out, right? There's so many great things going on in Rochester, and this Golisano Institute, what Ian's doing is one of them. So thanks again for watching. Have a great day, and make sure to stay awesome.